This is Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined for the latest edition of DiBella's Digest by the man himself, Lou DiBella. Lou, before we get on to the big fight from Saturday night, how's your week been?
Danny, at this point in my life when I have nothing to complain about and nothing horrible happened, I'm okay. So my week was fine. And you know what? It's always good to start a new week when you actually just saw a great fight. So, you and I thought it was going to be a good fight, I think. I think we both predicted the same winner, but I think we thought it was going to be a good fight. I knew that Wilder was going to be better this fight, and he was. But you know what? I mean, he still was Wilder. I think what you saw in this fight that you have to give Wilder tremendous credit for. And look, Fury's a warrior too. Put that aside. Fury's gone down and come up like the Undertaker more than once at this point. Yeah. But Wilder showed tremendous heart and will. He was, in my mind, very badly beaten by the middle of the fight. And to be able to soldier on the way he did. And look, I was on the edge of my seat until the fight ended because there was a sense that something could turn with one punch. And at this point in his career also, with his enormous size, his agility, all those other assets have made Fury a better puncher too. So I wouldn't say this narrative, including me in the past, that Fury's not really a puncher. Well, he's a giant of a man who's agile enough and athletic enough and big enough that he is a puncher. So you really had two punchers in there, one in Wilder. And again, while Wilder will never be remembered as the best heavyweight of his generation, at the very best, he's the second best. He's got to be remembered as one of the great punchers in the division's history, because he is. I mean, he's got insane power. But I really enjoyed the fight. It had drama from beginning to end. It was great theater. It was good for boxing. It was nice. A lot of my friends who didn't talk about the fight will probably watch it live, but caught some of the highlights or followed on the news. Like, I've gotten phone calls from people saying, "Hey, I'm going to check out that fight now. I hear it was unbelievable." And the fact that people are talking about it the way they are, and that's post-fact transcending the boxing world, that's really good for us. We've said this a million times, at its best, boxing's better or as good as anything. And that fight was boxing at its best. And let's enjoy it and enjoy the afterglow of it, because we don't get enough of it. And maybe it'll be an incentive to get some more of it in the future.
After the way the second fight ended, does Wilder get a level of redemption for going out on his shield? And were his corner right to let him do so?
Was his corner? I don't think his corner had much of a choice. His corner knew why they were there. And, he still blames Breland and calls him a turncoat, where I think Breland may have saved his life. Yeah. So I don't fault the corner on this one. I thought his eyes looked off. I thought he looked hurt or concussed, like by the middle round, fairly early in the fight, maybe after the fourth or fifth. I don't even know. But it was, of course, you got to give him amazing credit for his guts and for going out on his shield and his gumption. And it was more than going out at the shield. Even though I thought Fury was racking up the rounds, and I thought on paper I had it even wider than the judges. I thought it was a bit one-sided. It didn't matter, because he almost knocked Fury out multiple times. And he missed with a few bombs, but who knows what they would have done. There was that element of drama always there. He never quit. He never stopped trying for the knockout. I'm not endorsing the lack of sportsmanship or commentary or the craziness after the last fight and the excuses. I'm not endorsing any of that, but they're irrelevant. I don't endorse most. I mean, if we were going to sit there and criticize every fighter, for what you can criticize them for, we'd have nowhere near the number of all-time greats and guys we respect as we do, because there've been an awful lot of fighters who've made excuses and behaved themselves poorly, and we still remember them as all-time greats. The heart he showed, the guts he showed, and the unwillingness in this one to quit under any circumstances, you got to give him credit. The two of them combined to make it a great fight, And I know that on this one afterward, he needed to to the hospital. He was, he was out of it. I'd hope at some point when he goes back and he watches the fight and he watches the trilogy or whatever, I hope at some point that he'll give Fury a little bit more credit. I got the sense, only saw a couple of quotes from Deontay after the fight, and I thought that they were, I thought he had it in perspective. There were no excuses here, and he knew that the better man won on this particular night. But it was a terrific heavyweight fight. I don't think, by the way, Fury was in his top shape. I don't. And I think he probably had a rough camp. He had a lot of time off. I don't think he's as hungry as he once was. I don't think it was the best of Fury, but it was good enough. And by the way, the Fury that was in there the other night, which I don't think is the best of Fury, it's probably also good enough to beat everyone else too. I don't really credit where it's due. He's the best fighter, heavyweight of his generation, and the best, he's the best heavyweight. And even when he beat Klitschko, he softened Klitschko up a little bit for Joshua, and he didn't lose a round in that fight. Fury's, before it's said and done, I think Fury's gonna be remembered as an all-time great. He's already a Hall of Famer, obviously, but I think before he's done, he is gonna be remembered as the best of his generation and an all-time great.
And kind of leads me to my next question, because I agree with you. I don't think there's anyone out there at the moment who can beat Fury. What's the prototype of a boxer that could defeat him? What skills do they need to have?
Some size, power, agility, ability of someone. It doesn't have to be as good. It's going to be hard to fight a man his size that's ever. I don't know you're ever going to find a guy his size that's quite as good a boxer as he is when he's pure boxing. Okay, but he's not ready for him right now. But a guy like a Jalalov, in terms of the attributes he has, I don't think they're ever going to fight, because I don't think they're going to cross. Because I also think, Tyson's a very self-aware guy. He's a very self-aware guy. He's honest about his own demons and shortcomings, and he's a self-aware guy. And also, he made a comment the other night, which I thought was great, where he made a comment about Wilder, and he said, I don't know that Wilder's ever going to be the same after this kind of fight. This had to take a lot out of him. And then he paused and said, and it probably took a lot out of me too. And I'm going to give Fury credit for the smarts that after he unifies this thing, and I think he will. I don't think there's never a need to see a Wilder fight again, nor do I hope. I really hope it never happens again. We've seen it. It's done. A Usyk fight and an Usyk fight and an AJ fight, maybe even both of them, depending on how their fight goes, or if it doesn't go. I don't think Fury's going to stay a long time beyond his time. And I hope he doesn't, because he has been, he's a fighting man, as he says. God knows how many times he's fought before outside of a ring, but in the ring, he's clearly been hit by bombs. He's not a young kid. He's a family guy. And I think he's got so much talent in terms of his natural charisma that he could do other things with his life. I also think, he's been very open about anxiety and depression and issues he's had, frankly, as I have also. I think when you have those issues with anxiety and depression, etc., you probably should be limiting how many times you're concussed or get hit in the head.
Yeah.
Because it's just fact that doesn't help. So, I actually think that Fury's a guy that I could see retiring unbeaten and with quite a legacy. And I think that there's a lot he could do positive outside of the sport too. But I wouldn't mind saying, look, Wilder. I've told you this before, and it's true. I don't care what people believe or think. I have an affection for Wilder. I always will, and I excuse a lot of stuff he maybe that is not so wonderful. but I also think he's sort of been enabled by a lot of people and sort of encouraged and whatever. It is what it is. But no one's a perfect person, right? But there's part of me that would hope that he doesn't soldier on, but he's going to. He's too valuable a commodity not to. And I hope he takes some time off and recuperates and really, like, I think a good long time off would serve him. Not fighting until late spring, early summer kind of thing. If he's going to fight, certainly at least 6 or 8 months off. But if he's going to fight, who wouldn't want to see him in AJ?
Yeah.
And frankly, if AJ just like I'm making, look, AJ may beat Usyk, right? I think it's possible. But either win or lose, I'd still like to see Wilder and Fury, frankly. It's not the fight it would have been when they were both undefeated. That would have been the biggest fight in the history of boxing, in terms of worldwide interest, probably. But I still would like to see that fight. Look, there's no reason why, and Fury still hasn't fought AJ and hasn't fought, Usyk. So I think there's a little bit at the top of the division, a little bit of a sort of a round robin. It'd be nice to see, if Wilder keeps fighting, to see some kind of a little like round robin between the 4 best guys right now. I also think it's time to start looking to build future contenders and champions, because it's pretty clear to me that the shelf life of all 4 of the guys we're talking about is limited. I don't see any of the 4 big guys in the heavyweight division right now, and I'm including Usyk in that top 4, obviously. And in case anyone's wondering, as much as I think Usyk might be the most skilled on my pound for pound list, Usyk's higher than any of the rest of them until Fury fights Usyk, only because how Usyk's moved up and sort of done what he's done in multiple divisions.
Yeah, makes sense.
Fury is obviously 1. I actually, at the moment, put Wilder at 2, and Usyk at 3, and Joshua at 4. But I'd like to see some mixing and matching of those guys until they're gone. There's really no reason to see easy fights with those guys much more. I'd rather just see them, square off against each other. And I don't think any of them are going to be factors in the vision in 3 to 5 years. I don't.
What's your view on heavyweights in the pound for pound list if they've only ever been heavyweights?
It's just I don't think that's why the argument started and the list was conceived. I think Fury has to be on the list because he's so brilliant as a boxer and his skill level is just so great. But on a pound for pound list, Usyk cleaned out and totally dominated a division, the cruiserweight division, and fought all the top talent in that division, and then went up and fought a guy who at that moment was perceived as number 2, second best guy out there, and he made him look silly. So on the pound for pound list, I have Usyk on top of Fury. On the heavyweight list, I have Fury on top of Usyk and Deontay, because to be honest with you, while I think Usyk could make Deontay look very, very silly for a number of rounds, Usyk gets hit. And one flush shot from Wilder, and that's it. The size does matter. Particularly when you're getting hit with hammers of Thor. Size matters. And by the way, give credit to Fury, man. He has one of the great chins ever.
Yeah.
How many guys have gotten up after being knocked concussively by Mike Tyson 3 times or 4 times? Nobody. So, in terms of, Wilder, who I think hit every bit as hard as Tyson, though I think Tyson's game at his best was more rounded. Fury's chin is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Brilliant. Well, always insightful. And next time we catch up, hopefully we'll have more to talk about, not just in the heavyweight division. Obviously, Canelo's got a fight coming up. Dillian White's fighting Otto Wallin. That should be interesting too. There's plenty to look
for. Anyone fighting next weekend? I don't even know.
Next weekend in the UK, we've got a show. Hughie Fury's fighting, actually. Tyson's cousin. He's fighting Christian Hammer. Chris Eubank Jr. is on the show as well. So there's definitely UK interest. I'm not sure US-wise who's out. Is Mikey Garcia, is that this weekend?
Well, there's a show. I think Mikey Garcia is this weekend. There's a show also at the Barclays Center. Not huge names. Actually, it was one huge name. It's the Jamaican DJ Supercat, who's doing a versus concert. And actually, he's about my age. I actually saw him in the 80s a couple of times in Jamaica. He's a great look. Like, I love reggae, so I'm going to enjoy the music. But there's some really good fighters, of young undefeated fighters. There's Cletus Seldon's fighting William Silva. It's a decent fight. Petros Ananian, who I promote, 140-pounder that beat Subriel Matias. He's in with Danny Gonzalez, that had the fight that a lot of people thought he won against Chris Algieri. There's a lot of I have a kid, Roman, from Puerto Rico, an undefeated welterweight, fighting a kid, Cesar Francis from Brooklyn, another undefeated welterweight. It's sort of it's the equivalent of a good domestic Brit show. This is a good domestic US show. And it's the Triller Fight Club. It's going to be on Fight TV. It's like not a pay-per-view. It's, you get it with the subscription to Fight TV, and then there's a music afterward. One of the reasons I'm promoting it, I'm happy it's being done, is that the undercard guys that would have been canceled because there was no Kambosos Lopez, they're fighting on this card. I think it's a good boxing card for people that are in the New York area, in Brooklyn, and I hope you run this before Saturday.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's like, tickets go from $100 down to 20 something. So it's an affordable, quality, local boxing show with a great musical component. So that's Saturday night, the 16th. And yeah, I guess Danny's fighting. I don't remember the name of the guy he's fighting, but I think not Danny. I think Mikey is fighting. Who is he fighting?
Sandor Martin.
Yeah,
European champion.
Yes, Sandor is a tough kid, but that shouldn't be competitive. But
no, shouldn't.
But no. But I'll probably watch anyway.
Who is Super Cat's opposition in the versus battle?
No, this is more Super Cat and Friends. It's not their It's not their battle series. It's a new series they call the Icon series.
Oh, okay.
And Super Cat probably is the dance hall, reggae DJ historically, and it's and remember, Barclays Center is the part of Brooklyn Barclays Center has as many Caribbeans as the Caribbean. I mean, it literally is the most. It's the most Caribbean rich area outside of the Caribbean, in that area of Brooklyn. Whereas the West Indian Day Parade takes place there, and the Caribbean festivals and everything else, because there's such a big pocket of Caribbean people. So I expect there'll be a big turnout of Jamaican people and other Caribbean people, and I think it'll be a fun night between the music and the boxing.
Great stuff. Well, I look forward to that. People here presumably can watch it on Fight TV, so great stuff.
Bye.